Hello YouTube, Alan back with another video, first video of 2019, so I guess Happy New Year. A little belated, but however. Um, yeah, I haven't made a video in a little while, but largely that's been one, because A, it's been the holidays, and two, I haven't had much that I want to necessarily talk about. I had done videos talking about kind of like the N64 Mini, the PlayStation Classic, a bit about retro achievement stuff like that, stuff that basically, gaming stuff that I had been interested in or had been topical, but for all intents and purposes, I guess due to the holidays, there hasn't really been any of that. So I haven't made a video. But I want to get back into it. I didn't want to leave it drag on and on before making a video in 2019. So I said, do you know what? I'll do a package and pickups video, a classic, a staple of the channel, if you will. We're closing in on 100 of these, but I haven't made one in quite some time because honestly, there haven't been as many packages and pickups. I don't do as many charity shops and car boots as I used to do, so I just don't come across that stuff. My collection, I haven't really shrunk it, but I haven't really grown it either. That's not to say though I haven't picked up some stuff, and I've kind of got a bunch of stuff around me, and I figured I'll do a kind of a 2018 recap, or the stuff that I didn't previously show in a package and pickups video, because there was one or two that I've already shown. So most of these are actually gifts. They come from my wife, either for kind of Christmas, birthdays, all that sort of stuff, or they come from Tony, offloading collection or stuff like that. So there's a relatively small amount of stuff that I went and picked up myself. That's just the way it's been. But we'll start with a few kind of non-specific game things, but they're game-related things. And that's, well, for a start, it's this Luigi top that I'm wearing. You might have noticed in previous videos, I wore a Mario Zippy quite a bit. Got that in the Nintendo World Store in New York years back. I've worn it a lot, and it's getting to the end of its life. So my wife got me a Luigi one, kind of go for the other brother this time, I guess, on the Nintendo UK store. And I also got a few other kind of clothing related items that are video games. So we got this one, this Mario Kart 8, I guess? Yeah, Mario Kart 8 t-shirt. Mario Kart 8 is an awesome game. I think it's my favourite Mario Kart game, actually. So I actually have the Wii U version and I have the DLC, which is why I've never bought the Switch version, but either version is great, because I have played the Switch version. And then another item, they call these loungewear, I guess. I kind of think of them as pajamas on in a way, but so it's Pac-Man, basically. You got eat, sleep, game, repeat, which is very similar to my, if you've ever seen my my channel logo or my Twitter logo, it's kind of eat, sleep, play with various characters, so it's quite like that. Again, it's Pac-Man stuff, and I don't know, is it an age thing? I didn't really wear loungewear when I was younger. I just don't know why. But these days I just love loungewear. It's just so comfy. I guess I just want to be comfy. So there's a few kind of clothing bits, including what I'm wearing. Now, on to the gamey stuff. The games. So, again, as I said, I haven't been picking up too much, so these are largely gifts. So, kind of a mixture of platforms, even a few kind of modern stuff, so we'll just kind of go through them. So first up is Devil May Cry 4 on the 360. Yeah, this was, I assume it's just a disc. I like the concept of these games, and obviously, you know, I've played things like Bayonetta as well, which are in a way an offshoot. I've never been able to get good at them. I think that's the thing. If I play on an easy mode, I can enjoy the story, but I can never really kind of learn all the combos and become proficient at the combo systems and whatnot to truly take it on. But I like the kind of action style that are throughout the games. The next two, I'm going to put these together because they're kind of related. It's PES, or Pro Evolution Soccer 2008, and Pro Evolution Soccer 2013. So obviously, we've got very different versions here. We've got, this one's complete, the Wii version, which I got apparently 90% from Nintendo Magazine. You can even see the pointer. This was all about trying to use the kind of the motion control and the pointer control to kind of give a new way of kind of playing a football game. So I'll be interested to try that out. And whereas this one, our Pro Evo, Viva Pro Evo, this is, you know, your more traditional Pro Evo, but in high definition. I, the funny thing about these type of games, very cheap, very easy to pick up. But I actually think they're good fun. Certainly, myself and Tony have played umpteen hours of various incarnations of ISS, FIFA, Pro Evo, whatever you name it. And honestly, we never you never get the brand new when they come out because they're 60, £70, and next year they collapse in price. So, what's the point if you just want the most up to date rosters, whatever? But I mean, I think we play something like we played all the way back to the N64 ones and even some of the SNES ones, and where you don't even have licenses on the Pro Evolution games or the ISS as they were. And it doesn't really matter. The gameplay is solid. It's a good multiplayer experience, especially good when you're playing local and you have that bit of banter and you make your own team. And sometimes it actually helps when they're not pros that have like, was it Ronaldo, Michael Owen, whoever, when they're complete no-name just randomers, because you can imbue a bit of your own personality. You create who they are, almost like a pseudo RPG element. You imagine this is what this player is and this is the attributes. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's just, as I said, fun, simple, cheap experiences when you have someone to play with. I'm not too sure how much it'd hold up in solo. Next up is one I'd never actually heard of, Mini Desktop Racing. Now again, this is for the Wii, and it's complete as well. So, in theory, this sounds like Micro Machines. I'm looking at the back and it has put the fun back into the Mini. Mini has aspiration features, licensed the Minis, but it looks like it's traveling over school, desktop stuff, kitchen, etc. And that's exactly like Micro Machines. And Micro Machines is a really fun game. Although I played it again recently for Retro Achievements, and by God, was it pretty damn cruel. That the CPU cheated like mad in places. So I'm curious. As I said, I've never heard this. Don't know if it's good or not, but curious. If you've heard about this, let me know in the comments below, as I say. So we got another Wii one, but a kind of a deviation, and we have GoldenEye. Now I have GoldenEye in the Wii, but I do not have this. This is the GoldenEye 007. They call it the limited collector's edition, and what it does is it comes with the game, which in this case is sealed, so that's good. And it also comes with a golden classic controller. And actually, this looks like it was never used. So other than the dented box, this must be pretty much brand new, I'd say. Now, I'm interested in this for several reasons. One, obviously, it's a nice collector's item. But I had the original classic controller that came when the Wii launched, and it didn't have these handles, and it had smaller, 2-in-line buttons. It didn't have these nicely separated triggers. So while it was an okay controller, it didn't really feel that comfortable for extended play, and I never really wanted to play retro games on it that much. Later in the Wii's life, they brought out this kind of Pro classic controller, where it had the prongs to hold on to, and it had the kind of extended shoulder buttons. And straight away, I do feel this and go, yeah, this is actually a much nicer controller, much nicer. So I would definitely be inclined to check this out and see how it plays with, because while they've turned it off now, the Wii was home to quite a good retro library with the Virtual Console, and you can hack the Wii like mad. So probably a decent controller for a hacked Wii. In fact, I'm looking at it going, if only I could make that wireless and connect it to something else. But I'll get to that later. So I'm curious how the box got dinged up when everything else looks brand new. But I never. Oh, the game itself, I barely even mentioned it because I was focused on the controller. As I said, I actually had I had GoldenEye, just the standard edition, not the collector's edition, on the Wii. And of course, when this came out, when this was announced, they had a trailer, it's coming back and all this sort of stuff at E3, and it was a big enough reveal. And it's a solid game. It is actually solid. It reworks the kind of GoldenEye movie, has some nods to the N64 game. It has Daniel Craig in it, which is a bit weird, given that it's GoldenEye and Pierce Brosnan was in that one. And it says bringing multiplayer back to the roots, kind of touching the split screen stuff. But to me, this is really Call of Duty GoldenEye Edition. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you go in expecting that, I think you'll really enjoy this because it has a lot of the cinematic experience, you know, taking you for that kind of ride. But if you go in expecting N64 GoldenEye with kind of better graphics, I think you might be a little let down. So, you know, kind of, you have to go in with the right expectation is really it. Okay, gotta make... no, running out of space here. But if I make space, I'll probably knock the camera. So we'll carry on. For now, at least. So, we'll take a short break from the Wii stuff. There's more to come. We have a GameCube game. The only GameCube game I picked up in quite some time, and it was Resident Evil 0. And I picked this up relatively recently, actually. I was up in Enniskillen, and I had this in CX there, and I seen it was complete. Had both discs because it's a double discer, but it had the manual and the proper box. So I said, I think it was £6. I said, I'll pick that up. I like picking up GameCube games for whatever reason when I can. The only problem was that there's you won't come really probably up in camera, but there's quite a bit of water damage on the insert. But however, for the price, I couldn't really complain. And the discs looked in pretty good condition. I haven't checked them out yet, but there was no real sign of... Oh, go back in. There's no real sign of wear. Of course, those little slips that they have for the discs don't work so great on a GameCube case because GameCube case is small and the discs are small. But this was at the time Resident Evil 0. Yeah, this was unique, I think, exclusive to the GameCube for the longest time. And I know there's a HD version, I think, on PS4 now, but that's relatively recent. I think this was exclusive to GameCube for a very long time. And at one point, believe it or not, this was originally going to be an N64 game because, of course, they brought Resident Evil 2 to the N64, a crazy good port for the technology. And I think they were basically going to use the same engine and do Resident Evil 0. But they probably made the wise decision to move it over to GameCube. So put that aside. And we have a modern game, possibly the only one here. And we have Doom on the PlayStation 4. This is a very unusual game to include in a package pickup. And part of the reason why I wanted to was just talk about the difficulty in buying this. This is obviously an easy available game. It got good reviews. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it because as much as I love classic Doom, I really like classic Doom being classic Doom. I like the visual style. It's quite bright in a lot of places. You know, I like the fact that you don't even have to use a mouse. It's, you know, left, right, you know, up, down is taken care of. But I tried to buy this on Amazon several times when I seen it for like £10. But they just wouldn't ship to Ireland. I was like, what's that all about? Because it didn't seem to be like region exclusive or locked. Like, yes, it's 18s, but so what? You can buy other 18 games. I've no idea why. You never could buy it. And it was obviously a lot more expensive here. But so when I was up in Enniskillen, they had it for £6. I said, I'll pick it up. So I was actually surprised to see there was some sort of insert stuff, but it's largely just ads. I do like the reverse cover. And to me, that is a better cover, just the kind of real classic style Doom reworked. So I might switch it up, to be honest, I'm not sure. But as I said, I've heard a lot of great things, and I did consider at one point picking it up on Switch. But at the price, and you know, you're going to get better graphics anyway on the PS4. There was really no point. I wasn't going to play it portable. Even though I think they did, from what I've seen, they did a great job on that particular version. But anyway, there we go, Doom. So back to a few more Wii titles. We have, and this is one I remember looking at, Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. I got this in CX as well. I was looking at it and I'm going, do I own this game? And I haven't gone back and checked because I definitely, now maybe it's on a different console. I couldn't quite tell. And it was something like £1, so I said, okay, I'll pick it up. I like Star Wars. Unfortunately, no manual with this one. But then again, by this point in time, manuals are practically... Oops. Manuals are practically a thing of the past anyway. It sounded interesting. I know it got mixed reviews. Again, you kind of do think the Wii would make, you know, with the motion controls, force, lightning and all that sort of stuff would be a good fit. I don't know. I have a funny feeling I have it on a different system. Wouldn't shock me if I've done it in another package and pickups video and just can't remember. But when I had it, like I had an Excel sheet with a lot of my games, but it's not fully up to date. So I looked through and I said, I don't see it. So I'll pick it up in a week. And then we have Trauma Center, and this one feels light yet. So this one is also just a game, but it was 50 cents. So I figure why not. I like Trauma Center on the DS, at least in the beginning. It starts off and you're using the kind of stylus input as if you're doing a game of operation. And there's a little bit of story trying to do. And in the beginning, it's grounded in a lot of reality. And that works really well. In the end, it becomes way too hard and a bit too sci-fi for my liking. So I kind of never really, I never really enjoyed the ending of the game. And that's kind of why I never got into any of its sequels or anything like that. But for the prices that I'll give the Wii one a shot, because again, they were obviously thinking you got the pointer, it's kind of like a stylus. I'd be surprised if it works as well, because the stylus is really precise, whereas the pointer, while it's precise, you have nothing, like you've no resistance. You're kind of just holding your arm and hoping, so I never enjoyed the pointer as the most, for long-term sessions with extreme precision, that's tricky. So I'm curious, will they have redressed the difficulty curve to take that into account? So that's a lot of that stuff. We've got to move down now. So we got a small item here, and this one here is, well, as you can see, it's a Jolt pack with 1 meg of memory. So it's an N64 Rumble pack and memory pack in one, which is really handy because the N64, the memory pack and the Rumble packs both use the kind of port on the controller. You only have one on each controller, so if you want to use a Rumble pack, which why not? I think it's a decent feature. It means you can't plug in a memory pack at the same time, and there's certain games, usually third-party games, that don't have battery-backed saves, so you have to use a memory card. And you can do kind of swapping, pulling out one and plugging in the other and all that, and it's a bit of a mess. So at the 8-bit conference earlier in the year, which myself and Tony attended, and we were kind of part of one of the discussion panels. We were doing a group thing about kind of retro gaming, in Ireland today. We kind of did a round of the shops, and I had mentioned in passing about, I'd been playing N64 and had that, the thing about the memory card. I did buy a memory card, but it was a memory card for saving. I think it was Pro Evo or ISS 2000. So Tony actually picked this one up for me. So thank you, Tony. That was quite thoughtful, and handy. It was a very I say handy, to be honest. I actually haven't tried this out yet. I think it needs batteries to use the Rumble feature too. Largely because I ended up getting something else not too long after that visit. I see. Yeah, so it does. It uses batteries, which is possibly a good sign. The original N64 Rumble pack. So there you have your battery slot. No batteries in it, thank God, to corrode. Used batteries. So Nintendo's one used batteries, and it gives a very good, even rumble. Some third-party ones, including the one that I have, doesn't. In fact, geez, I can see the motor because it's see-through. You won't see it on camera. You can see the motor. It's fairly big compared to what you'd have today. It's like a big electric motor with a little weight on it. I've lost my train of thought. Brilliant. That's just great. What was I saying? Nope, not coming back to me. Doesn't matter. I was going to talk about this anyway. So I do remember I had a third-party Rumble pack, and it was very coarse, very harsh. I remember using it in Ocarina of Time, and Ocarina of Time has this slight rumble when you're on Epona, the kind of horse feet, and it really is quite effective. But the Rumble pack that I had, it was like if you put it down, the whole couch vibrated. It was crazy. Anyway, so there's actually a switch here from R and M, so presumably from Rumble to memory. So that basically, in effect, acts as the switch that you would do, and it also has a little push down press here, and that's the bank switching for memory. So by default, the N64 I think only can access 256K per page, as they call them, on memory cards, and you have to switch pages using these things. Quite inelegant, but that was pretty common for the time. I'm curious if the batteries Now, there is a manual, so I'd have to read through that. If the battery that you put in for the motor also powers the memory card itself, or if it has a cell battery inside, because the problem with a lot of N64 memory cards is that basically the battery dies inside and you have to replace it, but a lot of them aren't easy to replace. Now, the one I did get, and the one I ended up using quite a bit, actually has a tray that you can replace the battery with a new cell, and that's the way to go, really. So, but anyway, that's what I picked up. Well, what was gifted to me from the 8-bit conference. I really should have made a video on that. So, next up, we probably have the biggest purchase of the year. It is the NVIDIA Shield. Now, I've spoken about this in other videos. My previous videos, I talked about my setup and setting up retro achievements and basically retro art and stuff like that. So this is it's an Android device, and in my case, I got the gaming edition that comes with the controller as well as the TV remote. So you can use it for TV playback. You can have your Netflix. You can have a whole bunch of various apps. You can use side loaders for a lot of Android stuff as you would with any Android device. But it also is, it basically is, it's equivalent to a Switch, which is quite a beefy Android device for running emulation. And it makes a very good RetroArch machine. And that's what I've been playing a lot of. So that was kind of, after getting some of the N64 stuff and whatnot, I got this, and even, actually, I got the box very dusty. Even, Tony was saying, wow, he really liked playing this, and he's normally not into that type of gaming. So, next up, we have a relatively new edition. This was a birthday present from my wife, and it was the Starlink Battle for Atlas. Is that it? Yeah, Atlas. Largely, I had pointed it out because it has the Arwing. Really, that was it. As much as anything, it was. This is. I've seen videos of it, and to be honest, it does look like it might do a better Star Fox experience than the Wii U game did. Now, the Wii U game, I think, could have been good, but that control setup I just could not adapt to. So, I'm not, honestly, this Toys to Life thing, sticking stuff on the Switch controller, which is kind of what you're meant to do. No. I seen after Christmas they had a lot of these things like reduced clearance, but no, it's really Star Fox. That's the main thing in it for me. So, I mean, it looks decent enough. It has a pseudo kind of No Man's Sky presentation, but not to that scale. They did focus a lot on these toys, but apparently nothing is locked behind them, so that's good. What else? Oh yeah, one little note. Obviously, the Switch version, you get Star Fox. You get the Star Fox content and characters and story. That's a really good selling point, and I suspect this version might be the best selling. But this is an interesting little note. To use the software, a download of 6 gig via a wireless internet connection is required. You may also be required to create a Nintendo account. So, essentially, the full game is not on the cartridge. So, in years to come, and I really gotta download this, you buy one of these secondhand, you don't have an internet connection, the eStore is gone, kind of like the Wii U or the Wii Store has closed, basically. Well, this game ain't gonna do nothing, because it requires a 6 gig download. So it's one of those interesting cases where we're moving away from the physical, and there is advantage in digital, convenience and so on. When you see a hybrid like this, where this is a physical commodity but requires substantial digital content to actually do anything, it undermines the value of the physical commodity, and you still then don't have the full convenience of the digital. It's a strange one. The reality is that this was done because Switch cartridges are obviously more expensive to manufacture than a Blu-ray disc. And a Blu-ray disc has far more capacity. So for larger games, I've seen some third parties basically cut content out and make you download it. I know Doom on the Switch did it, and that's why one of the reasons why I veered away from that one. The multiplayer portion, which is somewhat excusable because a lot of the multiplayer portion is online anyway, is not on the cart. You have to download it. In this case, it was just, well, there's a whole chunk of data you got to get after the fact. If Switch cartridges were cheaper, which they're not going to be because they're flash memory. They're not going to be as cheap as a disc. You won't have that problem, but that's just where they are with that. So that's most of the stuff. But the final thing is actually just, I think it's the final thing anyway, is this bag of stuff. Excuse the noise. This is kind of, I suppose it's Tony's collection donation. He's not very much for kind of keeping hold of stuff, so I said, did you want my few gaming bits that I had from, various house moves and whatever? I said, sure, may as well stick them in the collection. So first up is is a Game Boy original. Now, this one is interesting in that, one, it has Pokemon Red in it, and two, it has this Gamester rechargeable battery pack. Because this was essentially my exact setup, and I have my Game Boy somewhere in the collection here. I wasn't mad into the Game Boy or portable gaming at all, really, at that point. But everyone at the time was playing Pokemon, and myself included. I got it actually before most of my friends. They had been talking about Pokemon, been really, oh, this looks interesting, this looks interesting. And in the end, out of the blue, the week it launched, I said to my parents, we're going up to, I think it was Blanchardstown Shopping Centre. I said, and they said, do you want anything in game? I said, well, if they have that Pokemon coming out, could you get me Pokemon Red? So they did. And I had a yellow Pokemon Classic, or a yellow Game Boy with Pokemon Red, and I had one of these Gamester battery packs. And what probably isn't coming out on camera, I see that there's tape here on the edges holding the bevel in place. My bevel fell off mine too. I don't know what it was about these ones. The glue or something over time just failed. But the amount of time that we all played basically these classic Game Boys playing Pokemon, it's just a great experience, great memory. And I know that's a bit like, in fact, shock horror, there's a transfer, or there's a link cable. I did not realize though that Tony had Pokemon Blue. Was he trading with himself? I'm gonna have to ask this now. This is interesting stuff, because I obviously traded with him, and I knew some of our other friends had let's stick in here, had Pokemon Blue, so we traded with them, but I did not realize he had Pokemon Blue. But he also has a nice lime green. This feels heavy. There's batteries in it. I'm actually surprised that they're not dead, or that they're not leaking. Let's see if they're... Oh, there's actually power in them. On it comes. Maybe they're not that old. So it's a lime green Game Boy color, and again, this was, I think, just for playing Pokemon. But why not? So then we have a few other games. I just take them sheet. Well, we'll keep the system. I'm going to have to ask him about this. I did not know, upside down, that Tony had a Game Boy Micro. In fact, he has the kind of hot pink Game Boy Micro that I have too. This is actually, in it, I should have sewed it back, is Pokemon Leaf Green. A remake of the original. Do you think Tony liked the original Pokemon games? I think so. I certainly did. This is quite a snazzy little system, and I think it kind of was underappreciated because it came at a very odd time. Nintendo they had the GameCube, they had the Game Boy Advance, and they brought out the DS as this third pillar. They weren't 100% sure what the new way to play it seemed, but it kind of was the replacement for the Game Boy. And the Game Boy Advance had a shorter lifespan than most other systems, and certainly for any Nintendo handheld that was successful, it had a short lifespan. It was like 4 years, really. And near the end, they brought out a few revisions. They brought out the Game Boy Micro, and they brought out the SP with the better light. But this Micro was interesting in that it's the smallest kind of Game Boy that Nintendo ever produced. It took out certain things like it has a different kind of connector, so your typical chargers and link cables don't work with it, and it took out the Game Boy original and color backwards compatibility, so it just is a Game Boy Advance player. But it is a very nice, despite the tiny little screen, it's only like 2 inches or something like that screen. It's quite a good screen, quite bright, and I'd say this one has some juice in it too. So it is a really, it's tiny, but actually plays quite well, and it really is something you could just slip in a pocket and bring it anywhere. So they went from this brick to this little thing, It is quite a transformation. Does this have any power? No, Game Set 1 is dead. So I love this console. It's a nice little one. Oh, it was flashing there. It was the battery is just with it. And they also brought back in the 3.5-inch headphone jack that the SP does not have. You have to have an adapter. That's quite a nice feature, because it was always frustrating. You couldn't charge and use your headphones at the same time. I found that annoying. So lovely console, and Beef Green is a great remake of the original, and more up my alley than say Pokemon Go. But there is actually a charger for that. I was wondering why there was a charger. I assume that is the charger for that. Yep, it's a charger. And then we have a few games. We have Kung Fu Master, which I assume is basically Kung Fu from the NES, but a Game Boy port or something along those lines. We have Kirby's Adventure, a solid game. Kirby's Dreamland, not Adventure. This was Kirby's first game, so he didn't have the absorbing powers abilities. I cleared it recently for retro achievement. Yeah, it's definitely, you can tell Kirby got a lot more fleshed out in later games. And then we have Dino Blaster. I've never heard of this at all, so I don't know what it's all about. I'm kind of expecting a Bomberman knockoff. But anyway, there are a few little bits from kind of Tony's Game Boy collection. He wasn't a big Game Boy person either. It was largely a Pokemon player like myself. Or a Pokemon original. Don't play so much Pokemon either. But anyway, that is basically that's everything from 2018. So as I said, there was enough stuff, but there wasn't a lot of stuff to making a lot of pickup videos all the time, which is why I didn't do them until now. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that kind of little trip through 2018, and I hope there'll be more interesting content for 2019. And thanks for sticking with me all these years, because I was only looking at it recently, and it's been quite a few years. Something like now 2019 will make it 7 years since I think I put up my first video on YouTube. Crazy how time flies. But anyway, hope you all have had a good holidays, and hope you all have a good year. See you soon.